Thanks, Joe. Good afternoon, everybody. As Joe said, my name is Mike Hinnenkamp, and I'm the Township Administrator. And I would also like to thank you for taking time on a beautiful Sunday afternoon to come and be with us today and talk about some good things that are happening in the Township. This is, I think, the eighth or ninth State of the Township that we've done since I've been in the Township. And I know there's been some times where some of those have been sort of gloomy presentations. There's been some tough issues that we've had to deal with. But I specifically remember last year being probably one of the most optimistic, because I felt like last year we'd finally turned the corner, and that's proven to be the case. I think we had a very successful 2015, and I'm very optimistic about 2016. I think things are starting to align very well for the Township. It's sort of ironic when you look at what's going on in the country in this presidential election, but here in the Township I feel really pretty good that we've got some real good things going. As Joe said, what I wanted to do today is just kind of take you back and look at what some of those highlights were in 2015 and kind of gauge where we are currently, and then also talk briefly about what are some of those remaining challenges and how we intend to meet those challenges in 2016 and beyond, really kind of the next 5 years. As we look at our accomplishments, I think they sort of break out into 5 different categories. One of our goals has always been to achieve financial stability, and that has been a major challenge really since about 2008, when we saw a whole bunch of things happening with the economy and some cuts with actions taken by the state legislature. So really since that time, we've really been struggling financially, and we've made great progress on that. Also want to talk about some accomplishments that we've had that impact residents directly in terms of savings that you're going to receive through programs that we've been able to negotiate. Ways in which we've been able to engage the community through meetings and different activities to get people involved through activities, and then also things that we've done on the departmental level that directly affect you from a service standpoint, service improvements. And then, of course, capital improvements in our economic development kind of round out the area of our accomplishments. From a standpoint of operational financial stability, really there's 3 major areas that we had tremendous progress with this year. Revenue enhancement, the JEDs, something that we went through about 1.5 years ago, very difficult, very controversial process, but going to talk about the success there. The Township in 2015 was able to restructure its debt, which is going to have a huge impact, not only not only in 2015 did it have an impact, but will for the next 13 years. And then some things that we've done is we continue to be innovative through programs and ways in which, through consolidation, through collaboration, different things that our departments have done either internally or externally with other communities, we've been able to save money. This was the chart similar to what we showed last year, and what this shows really, if you look at that cup, what that meant is that cup was full in 2008. And we were showing the impact. If you looked after the state cuts and the loss of the estate tax, we had lost all the way down kind of that blue line with 52% of our general fund budget being eliminated. We were projecting last year that we were going to make up about 31% of that through the JEDs. I'm happy to report that the JEDs has performed better than we've expected. We were intentionally a little conservative on that because you just don't know until you do it for the first time. But in 2015, we made up that entire difference. The JEDs tax is generating just under $2 million in 2015. Will it do that every year? Well, income or earnings taxes are certainly a little bit more volatile than property tax, so we don't know. There's also the possibility that because the tax was new in 2014, we know there are a lot of businesses that didn't pay it in 2014, so they had to make up for it in 2015. But still, we're pretty confident that it's going to come a lot better than what we expected and make up a great deal of difference. So we really had some success in that. The JEDs has been very, very successful for us. Now, the one thing I might mention is that in 2008, while we were very, very stable, we were by no means flush with money. So we're sort of back to that 2008 standpoint, especially from an operations. I talked about our debt restructure. We timed last year in 2015, we probably couldn't have timed this any better, where we refinanced our debt. And in order to do this, it required us to go to get a bond rating, to get renewed for our bond rating through Moody's Investment out of New York. And I was very happy that together with our underwriter and the decision of the Board of Trustees to make that decision to go through the refinancing, we're looking at saving the township about $1 million over the next 13 years. So very, very significant savings that we had. And as I said, one of the big parts of that is the rating. And we were able to sustain our AA2 rating, which we had when we initially did the bonds back in 2003. While for most of you that might not mean anything, that was a monumental achievement back in 2003, and it was even probably a bigger achievement last year to do it because of all the things that have happened in the investment world and all of the very difficult restrictions and how much more stringent they are. For a community of the size of Springfield Township, under 40,000, that is one of the highest ratings that you can achieve. And we're very, very proud of that, and I think that's something that goes to credit to the board, because Moody's reflected very highly in their rating that it really was the leadership of the board and some of the actions that they took during the very, very difficult times. As I mentioned, the other piece of our operational financial stability really kind of is things that we've been doing since 2008, but again, last year we continued to do some innovative things. I'll talk about those here in just a little bit. But these are ways in which we continue to make our programs, continue to run our departments in a very effective and efficient manner. We're looking right now that our 5-year projections for our major funds are all now looking where there is no tax increase on the horizon for the next 5 years from a standpoint of operations. We do have a fire levy renewal that is likely to come up in 2017, and that's because there was a small portion of the millage for the fire department that was a 5-year levy. So it's just simply expiring. We're not anticipating that there'll be an increase there, but most likely a renewal. Infrastructure is a little bit of a different story, and that remains one of our big challenges, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. From a standpoint of programs, things that we can bring direct savings back to residents. One of the things that we did in 2015 was a collaborative with Colerain Township and also Ross Township in Butler County, is to work out a solid waste program with Rumpke. Currently, our residents could choose any solid waste vendor that they wanted, but really for the most part, most folks are with Rumpke anyway. By doing this initiative, by this collaboration that we engaged in last year, we're looking at next month, or actually in April, next month, we're looking at savings upwards of 50% of what our residents are currently paying for their solid waste. So you could be looking at roughly, depending on what type of service that you have, the average household is probably going to save about $150 per year. Also big on that is you're going to get recycling as a part of that now for free. So no charge for the recycling component, and you've all seen the mailers, or hopefully by now, and that program, as we mentioned, will start next month. We've continued our energy aggregation program. This is for gas and electric, and we've brought savings, hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably into millions of dollars township-wide for the average individual homeowner, probably in that same neighborhood. We've saved you probably $150 to $200 per year over the 8 years that we've had this program. We did make a slight change to the program last year, and there was something called Flex Down added to it. Again, you would have received a mailer on that. Luckily, I guess, from one standpoint, we had a very, very mild winter, so that really didn't come into play. Gas prices remain fairly low across the nation, but we're still able to beat what you could do on your own, either with another competitor or what you could do with Duke. Resident engagement is another major goal of the Township Board of Trustees. And we had 16 different township events, 18 different events by our 501(c) nonprofit Arts and Enrichment Council, which goes under the name of Arts Connect. And we also had 4 volunteer neighborhood cleanups that took place. Capital improvements, we had over $1 million worth of new road improvements. And this was a combination of funds where we used our road district, fund, we used a portion of the JEDS money. We were very, very successful in a program called SKIP. That's a statewide program and very competitive, in which we received grant money, and we also used community development block grant funding. So between the combination of those 4 different funds, we were able to complete $1 million in road projects, and I'm happy to report that we've already secured close to $1 million in grants for projects that are going to take place in 2017. Talk about this in just a little bit again. Even though we're making progress, we know there's a long way to go as we deal with infrastructure. And as I mentioned, that's probably the biggest obstacle that we face. Department planning, succession for our leadership of the township is something that the board has invested in heavily in the last 5-6 years, because we knew that our staff was aging. We knew that there were a lot of our key members of our staff, key members of our leadership team were eligible for retirement. In May of last year, we said goodbye to our long-tenured police chief and service director. Almost 72 years of experience was lost, but because of our succession planning, I'm happy to report that we had 2 in-house candidates to fill that role. Our new police chief is Rob Browder, who you'll have the opportunity to meet with later in our police department, and Mike Gould is our new service director. And I got to tell you, we haven't missed a beat. It's just been unbelievable. These guys have stepped in like they've been here, and they have been. They've been with the township a long time, but in this leadership role, we haven't missed a beat, and we continue to make great progress. To that end, also, one of the things that we've done, we talk about collaborations and consolidations. Our police and fire departments have collaborated. When we kind of hit the really rock bottom portion of the budget, we were looking at all kinds of ways in which we could save money. But the one thing we didn't want to do is sacrifice service. So we were looking, are there things that police and fire can do together? Are there ways that maybe even in our wildest dreams combine those departments? So a police officer would also be a firefighter and vice versa. Well, logistically, that would have almost been impossible to do. But we didn't give up there, and through a lot of creativity in those departments, we were able to create a first responder program. And what that means is we're now training our police officers as first responders, so that if you have a medical emergency, we're eventually hoping that by the end of the year, we're going to have nearly all of our police officers trained also as first responders. Why does that matter to you? Well, one, it can save, there's some cost efficiencies there, but also it's service to you. Our police officers are running beats, so it means getting to your house quicker and being able to do initial assessment if there's a medical emergency. It also, when that squad arrives, there's also a vehicle there, so the squad knows where to go. It's a partnership that's worked out very well. It sounds common sense that police and fire would work together, but you would be amazed if you look across the country and how many different departments that they're almost bitter enemies in their own communities, the rivalries between the police and fire department. We don't have that case in Springfield Township. I think that's a great credit to our chiefs, Chief Rob Leininger, and as I mentioned, Chief Browder have worked really, really well together, and also our officers. This is a program we can do all of the training in-house, so we're not sending our officers out to school. It's something that our firefighters, we have instructors, certified instructors within our department that are able to do this thing. And this is really, really an exciting program, and I think we've already identified probably 3 or 4 incidents where we've saved lives that without it, somebody probably wouldn't have survived the incident. Our departments have received recognition both nationally and also locally. Our fire department has won an American Heart Award for some of the advanced diagnostics and some of the treatments that they can do in heart conditions, and now their communications with the hospital, again, early things that they can do so that if somebody is having a severe heart issue, we can do some very, very advanced things that are saving lives. And this was recognized, as I mentioned, by the American Heart Association. Our canine officers, we have an excellent canine program that is utilized not only here in Springfield Township, but by many of the different communities around, also recognized with the award in 2015. Very, very important to all of you, violent crime dropped. We saw a drop of nearly 11% in violent crime in 2015, and this kind of shows, that chart kind of shows you what's been happening really over the last 5 years. So we're very, very happy to see that we're at a 5-year low on what our violent crime has done. This facility and the facility just to the west of this building, our senior center and this Grove facility, are facilities that, although we use for events like this, and the senior center provides our senior community programming, Tom Schneider, our director, also rents these facilities out. And what this does is provide a revenue stream so that we can run these programs for our seniors and run various programs for the community at ultimately a break-even proposition. And we saw a 21% increase in rentals for this facility. So again, very, very critical to the general fund and taking the burden off of the general fund to allow this facility to be self-sufficient. There are improvements that we're going to need to make to this facility, but from an operational standpoint, we're making great progress. We were also successful in getting out into the community through the efforts of Kim Flam and Mike Gould, our service director. They were able to secure a grant, and we were able to build a new park and playground in our Seven Hills community. Economic development in 2015, we issued nearly $80,000 in residential incentive grants. These are grants that come back to individuals that work in Springfield Township and live in Springfield Township that pay into the JEDs. We want to return that money, and for those that applied, over $80,000 were returned to our residents in that respect. We were able to secure a master developer for our core plan, which deals with water, and I know we got some folks from water here, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But that was also a major undertaking, something that we've been working to find the right partner in moving the township forward from a development standpoint. And we saw about $1.8 million in new business investment in Springfield Township. This is a Sherman-Williams plant that you see here that made almost $250,000 worth of investment this year. So these are I think, a very successful 2015, kind of some of the highlights that we've achieved as we go through and look at what's ahead. I think we always have to go back and look at what our mission statement is. And I think this mission statement and the three major objectives that the board has set really haven't changed probably, I don't think, in the last 10 years. Our mission statement is about providing service. And that's really what all these words really mean, is providing cost-effective and innovative service. And we recognize that we live in a world where things are constantly changing. Rules, laws, things we're constantly under siege, as you are as an individual homeowner, to manage your own budgets. And so we need to be we need to be ahead of that game, and we need to be providing the leadership. But the bottom line is we need to be able to provide value to our residents. Your tax rate is high. We understand that. We need to make sure that you're getting value, and that's our primary goal. And this is something that we preach to our departments and to all of our staff on a daily basis. That this is why we're here. This is what we're about. Talked about these three major sort of objectives that we've had. I think we've had tremendous progress in the first two in 2015 in achieving some of that financial stability, especially from an operational standpoint. And we continue, and I think, improve our ability to engage the community, to get the community involved. I think this is a good testament to that, the turnout that we have for events like this. The last one, in the revitalization of our neighborhoods, is critical. We can't succeed if we don't continue to improve and revitalize our neighborhoods. And while we're making progress in this area, this is the area that I think we're going to be focusing most heavily in 2016 and beyond. As we look at some of the primary challenges, I've said over and over again, infrastructure was that one. That's sort of the one that keeps me awake at night. Everything else I feel really good about from an operations standpoint, but infrastructure is a very difficult issue. We know how to fix it, and we know what to fix. The issue is money. It's just that simple, and there's not enough money, and I don't think anybody in this room wants to pay more money necessarily to have it fixed, but it has to happen. And so we're struggling right now to figure out what that answer is, and we're hoping that as we go through our comprehensive neighborhood master plan improvements, we will have some of that answer. But this is a $40 million issue that we need to figure out how we're going to solve, because it's not going to get better. The housing and investment in our neighborhoods, another key area. We need to figure out, and this has been another one of our missions, is how do we begin to slowly transfer some of the percentage of our tax base the vast majority of our tax base is generated from residential properties. If you look on this particular map, that's kind of a very small graph of Springfield Township, and you can see the areas that are in that Kelly green color are all properties that are either parks or open space. And those are phenomenal things, and those are what makes this township great, but they also don't pay any type of taxes. And so all of the remaining areas in that yellow are residential, and you can see the burden, the tax burden in Springfield Township are on the residents. We're never going to change that like some communities, like a Blue Ash that might have 70% of their tax base provided from non-residential sources. We're not going to get there, but we've got to take it from the 80 maybe to a 70 or maybe a 65, and that's one of the goals and something that we need to continue to work on. Our schools are critical to the township. And we've got to, and we have worked very closely with the schools, but we need to enhance that. And we're looking at doing even more aggressive things and partnering with our school districts, especially our major 3 school districts, which are Finneytown, Mount Healthy, and Winton Woods. Those are the 3 largest school districts in the township. But we have portions of 7 school districts. And that's another one of our challenges. But again, reaching out to them and also our private and parochial schools and how we partner, because our community is only as strong as our school districts are. So as we look at what we're going to do, how are we going to meet these challenges, and Mr. Hunterlaw talked about this in his opening, a lot of this really comes down to the update of our comprehensive neighborhood master plan. We went through a very, very extensive process in 2010 and adopted this plan in 2011, and it was a very, very comprehensive document that talked about policy decisions, land use decisions, economic development decisions. And as we look back at that document, it is amazing that a good portion, probably 60–70% of the recommendations that were in that document have been achieved. We have accomplished it. So it only makes sense, and I think in any planning process, you want to go back to that document at least every 5 years, update it, make sure that you're keeping it current, and we're about ready to do that. So we're not recreating the wheel. It's not going to be that extensive of a process as it was initially, but we need to update it and see where are we at, and that's the process that we're going through. Back in 2010, 2011, that document was created with the help of a committee of 75, made up of from neighborhoods all throughout Springfield Township, and really a tremendous cross-section of different interests of those that were involved. We have 40 of those original members that are willing to come back and want to remain on the committee, and the board just recently appointed 33 new members to that committee. We had solicited individuals, I think, for about a 2 or 3 week period who were interested in serving, and we got a tremendous support, tremendous amount of individuals that expressed interest. I think there were a total of 58. And that probably more than anything else is what I think keeps us going as staff, to show that there's still that interest. People are willing to donate their time, they want to get involved, and we're very, very excited about that. And that committee is going to get ready to begin its work. In fact, they were going to start its work on the plan update on Thursday night, and we're going to be going through a process where hopefully we'll have final recommendations before our 2017 budget's due in July. So by early summer, we expect to have it. And these just kind of give you a little bit of an indication of what some of the components are. Again, we still want to talk about operational sort of decisions, township policies, to get feedback from the community on that. We will have a 5-year operations finance plan. We're going to look at some different options of how things could be financed in Springfield Township. Infrastructure, I've touched on that, a 5-year infrastructure plan, 5-year parks and bike path plan as well, and also the neighborhood strategies and economic development strategies, all components of that master plan. As a part of the master plan, the water development, the core area of Springfield Township, which is generally defined as the area south of Galbraith and to the east of Winton Road, that area is an area we focused on heavily. The township owns approximately 60 acres of land in that particular area, and we're looking to develop that property in a way that's going to lead Springfield Township into the future. We've had a meeting back in December where we sort of unveiled the very, very preliminary concept plan, at least for the property known as Warder, as a part of that, and we had a huge turnout. I forget what the total count was, but probably maybe least this size, maybe bigger, back at that time. And we understand that there's a lot of concerns. There's a tremendous amount of passion with the Warder property, especially from those individuals who live around that property. We understand that they've lived there their whole life, a lot of these folks. And that property has a lot of emotional connection to them. And we're not disregarding that. But we do feel that that property has the potential to really be the township's future in a lot of different ways. In this next 3 to 4, 6 months is going to be a critical part. We're going to work with that group, continue to work with that group to try to find what's best for everyone. Not only those residents, to make sure that they're not going to be negatively impacted, but also the entire township and how we're going to move forward. So it's going to be an exciting process as we go through and try to refine that neighborhood master plan, continue to engage the community, and especially those who have concerns about it, want to have an open dialogue. So we're getting all of the information that we can and hopefully come up with a master plan that's in everybody's best interest. The one thing we don't know about the process or this project is there a market for what we want to build? And that's the big unknown. And there's only one way to find that out, and that's to go through this process. Economic development, as I said, will continue to be a major part of this overall process and all of the different things that we do. The CIC that was created is a nonprofit arm of Springfield Township, and it was created specifically to focus on economic development and bringing new jobs and things into the township. In 2016, as we get through the comprehensive neighborhood master plan, we're hoping to adopt a comprehensive economic development strategy as a part of that, and the CIC will be doing that. We'll be talking about not only the incentives that we have, but also future incentives, neighborhood enhancement grants, where we're going to use a portion of the JEDS money, business improvement and expansion grant possibilities, and also other ideas in which we can foster and properly incubate the business community to bring jobs and new investment to Springfield Township. The Corps, as I mentioned, is a big part of that. We're also looking at what we call kind of our top 10 redevelopment sites. These are areas that we feel are ripe for redevelopment, and we want to make sure that we have strategic plans so when the private sector is willing to do something, we have an idea of what we want to see. Talk about the business or the neighborhood housing strategies, and then also some business retention and development strategies, as well as workforce development. This sort of summarizes kind of what we've accomplished, where we're going. I think the neighborhood master plan is going to be, again, the document where we sort of bring all of those things into one document. It's the place where we can provide for what the future is going to be for the next 5 years. In a few weeks, just a little more than a few weeks, if you're really interested in more details on the budget portion, the board will have a public hearing on March the 22nd at 5:30. This is our permanent appropriation public hearing. This is something we go through every year. All local governments are required to pass their permanent appropriations before the end of March. And so this is the public hearing that we will be going through that particular process. As I said, I think if I had to highlight kind of what is in our permanent appropriations for 2016, it really does focus heavily on infrastructure and capital improvements. For the most part, our operational changes, there's not a lot really proposed. We think we're right sized. We think we've got the right people in the right place. So our departments are in pretty good shape. We feel like, you know, we can deliver the service right now and meet the demands, but it is that infrastructure. We have our own buildings that obviously need to be maintained and upkept. So this budget is probably about that. Tools and equipment, there's some major pieces of equipment that need to be purchased. These are things like fire trucks and salt trucks, nothing really new, just replacement type items, and of course economic development. We are going to be around here after this presentation, and the way we like to do this is invite you to stick around. If you have a particular question, the elected officials are here. Dan Burning, our fiscal officer, is also here. We're happy to meet with you and one-on-one answer your questions. We also have our entire staff here, so if you would like to meet, or if you have a question about police or a question about economic development, something more detailed, please stick around. Our staff is here. If you'd rather not do that, but you do have a question, there's lots of other opportunities that you can do that, either by writing to us or emailing us. We want to gain public feedback. Our website has ways in which you can communicate with us. Telephone, you know the gamut. So we love hearing from our residents. That's how we put these things together, is getting that type of feedback. If there's something really specific you'd like to know, we can also set up individual meetings with you to meet individually with you or your group to do that. Before we break, I just would like to introduce some of our other key members of our staff that are here today. Most of them are all here to your right, to my left, and I just ask them to stand as I introduce them. Chris Gilbert is our Assistant Township Administrator, and Chris also serves as our Development Services Director. Kim Cox is our Finance Director. I don't believe, did Larry make it? Larry Mullins had a family emergency and was not able to join us today. I talked a little bit about our Police Chief, Rob Browder. Chief Browder's here. Also, Chief Browder has Brian Ewell, and Assistant Police Chief Rick Bly are with us as well. And who's that back there? Nick Peterson also joined us. Our Fire Chief, Rob Leininger. Service Director, Mike Gould. Tom Schneider's hiding back here behind the board. Tom's in charge of sound today, so if the sound's pretty good, that's all because of the job that Tom's doing. He likes to kind of stay out of the limelight. And then also Kim Flam. And Kim is involved in a whole bunch of different things for the township, but her title is almost as long as all the things that she does. She's our Projects, Events, and Communications Director, but she also serves as the Executive Director for the Arts Connect, which is a nonprofit arts community. So again, thank you very much for coming out here today, and we invite you to stay and participate, and if you have individual questions for the board or any of our staff, please feel free to do that. But thank you very much.